You're now listening to the 11:30 podcast. Enjoy the show. Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Y'all already know what it is. Welcome back, everyone, to the 11:30 podcast. What's good, everybody doing out there, man? We made it back here. It's Wednesday. You know what time it is. It's not 7:30. It's 11:30. We're going to get into the show, man. It's going to be a great one. I got an amazing guest, as you can see, you guys. She's Charlotte. Yes, you guys. She's a social media entrepreneur. She's a businesswoman. She's a domestic violence survivor, you guys. And also, she's an award-winning documentary filmmaker. We're going to be chopping it up with her. All that, man, for real. We're going to get to know her. The spotlight is on her. It's going to be a dope time. Before we do, we're going to shout out my guest who was on last week, Mr. Q, Quander. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But speaking of the show, we're going to get into it, for real. Charlotte, how's it going?
Pretty good. What about you?
It's going awesome. I appreciate you taking the invite, coming here on the 11:30 podcast this week. How like treating you?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's great. Life is good. It's sunny. We're entering into summer. Not much to complain about.
Yeah. You got to be grateful. It's sunny. We're getting in the summer. It's getting warm. I'm warm. But I appreciate you. This is going to be a dope one. Once again, Charlotte, thank you for coming on the podcast. Each and every week, I always allow my amazing guests to tell the world about yourself. So the floor is yours. You want to tell everyone about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Charlotte. I am I am a documentarian. I am a domestic violence survivor. I am a mom. I am an entrepreneur. And the journey for me has just been quite amazing. I've lived in several different countries. I actually lived in Mexico for almost 12 years on and off. And that was an experience that helped. Many of these, journeys helped to shape who I am today and who I am as a woman, as a person, as a mother, as a filmmaker, as an entrepreneur. And they all helped to really define my work and why I got into social justice as a focus of my film work. And also in my other life as an entrepreneur, why I chose to use my platform as a domestic violence survivor to start my other business, which is a body care product company that it was built to help domestic violence survivors.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome, though. Like you just saying, you're a domestic violence survivor, and also, like you said, you have a rich, also dope background. Also, you're the granddaughter of the civil rights movement, and also you're the daughter of the first handheld camcorder Motorola.
Yes, my father. Yes, so he, my parents. So both my parents came to the U.S. when they were young, and my father ended up being in the class of the first 4 Black students at Cornell's engineering school right after the 1973 affirmative action Supreme Court ruling. And so my dad was definitely one of those that directly benefited too as well. He was one of the few students who received a full scholarship there with my mother. And after he finished Cornell, he went to work for Motorola. And unbeknownst to me, I find out later in his life that he was on the team of engineers that helped to design the first handheld camcorder. And in the 80s, he also worked on what we know as the brick, but the first, I guess, Motorola's cell phone. And so it's been really interesting being a daughter of a legacy in that way. And so for me, there's like much responsibility that comes with that, and I have been really doing my best to live up to the legacy that my parents have passed on to me. I grew up, you are right, in the shadow of the civil rights movement in many ways. I wasn't born during that time, but between my parents, I grew up in the church, Canaan Baptist Church, which is where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s chief of staff was the pastor there, Dr. Y.T. Walker. He married my parents. And my mentor is the daughter of Whitney Young, who many consider the power broker of the civil rights movement. So pretty much my entire life, I have had this shadow of great legacy leaders who have circled around my life. I even had the pleasure or the privilege when I was a child of meeting Nelson Mandela when he came to the States. For I think we were his second stop after Riverside Church, and it's to be able to meet this person who has so defined, an entire movement around racism. Because whether you're an American, whether you're in Europe, wherever you are in the diaspora, you say Nelson Mandela, and there is a reverence of respect for sticking to principles and never deviating from that. And it is, and that, even as he got older, even with the uncertainty of whether he would live to see freedom, and to be able to have, been in that presence leaves a great impression on anyone, I would say, for the rest of their lives. And so I was very fortunate to have had that opportunity for that. So it really was the spring. It really ignited the spark for my interest in social justice, because it was sort of inevitable if you
Okay.
think about it.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. What type of responsibilities that you had to carry on, and also, do you still have one of the first camcorder Motorola's?
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a loaded question with responsibilities. When you are a child of a quote legacy of sorts, it's a very difficult road to navigate to determine like what you as your person, like who you are standing as a person separate from the shadow of the legacy. And I think that a lot of us, the children of the civil rights movement, a lot of us have struggled to really hone in on who we are, because we have the shadow of our parents over us. And so that's why for me, I took the love of things that I have always been curious about: media, the way media represents itself in society, the messages that it shares, the way media can sway public opinion on different social issues. To me, that's the new frontier, and that's why I decided to stake my claim there, so to speak, or make some noise in media. Because when you really really deeply understand how media truly influences on a micro level, for me, it was a no brainer to at least take that first step. And
Yeah.
I was always taught by Dr. Walker every Sunday and Wednesdays when my parents, we would have like the Bible studies. I was always taught by Dr. Walker that as children of the movement, that we have a responsibility to take the baton forward, because they got us to a certain point. Now it's our turn to get us over to Canaan, so to speak. And so that's I feel that's where we are, as our, at least our generation, because our parents or our grandparents who were in the civil rights movement, they're tired, they're done, they did their work.
Yeah.
And so it's up to us now to pick up the baton in whatever way that it is. And one of the things that I learned about that is understanding how to be an architect in whatever it is that you're doing. It's one of the lessons that Marcia, my mentor, who is Whitney Young's daughter, had taught me one day a few years ago. And it's how I learned about Bayard Rustin, really, because she shared notes directly from the front lines, talked about Bayard, talked about how the genius of Bayard being the architect of the civil rights movement, seeing all the moving pieces of what it would take to actually have a movement be successful, and understanding the roles of figureheads and and images and imagery, learning how to manipulate media, learning how to speak with the media, and learning that there are different roles for different lanes, so to speak. That's all. That is a very valuable lesson that we need to really study and learn, because it's a new playing field that we're on. The last generation, it was more centralized as a unit. Now we're completely decentralized. And so it opens us up to chaos. And that's why I think in many ways we sort of really need to centralize things, because when there's chaos, there's sometimes no movement. And that's really what I'm doing. And one of the things what I'm working on with media, not just with films, but I realized that in general, advocacy organizations and all of us who believe that we're a part of the movement, we all need like this centralized platform where we can go and learn about different issues without necessarily like this extra bias, learn directly from people affected by the issues, rather than what the media is feeding us, having an immersive experience where we can converse like this and then actually put into action the things that we're discussing. So that's sort of what I have taken up in terms of responsibility in the movement.
Okay.
That's been my I feel that's been my journey or my path that I've chosen to take.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I dig it. You speak a lot of.
Wait, I almost forgot to answer. No, I don't have my father's. I wish I did, but I don't have it.
Okay.
It's Motorola. But I can ask my my godfather, who's in Florida, who worked with my father, to see. I can ask him if he has a first.
All right. That'd be some real awesome stuff. Really awesome. You mentioned media a lot also. You have a quote on your website, which I think is awesome, because you said, because of the frantic pace of the digital age and media outlets feel the need to only filter out stories and sound bites that they think the audience want to hear.
Yes.
Can you speak on that? Because definitely the media don't give you the whole full truth. They just give you a little something here, a little something there, just something just to, maybe scare you or just get you by, but they don't never tell you the whole full truth.
Absolutely. Since the rise of the digital age, we as a society have been susceptible to these kind of clickbait articles and digital news shows and news stories. And we as a society, our emotions have been swayed so much by the mass distribution of these clickbait articles and shows. We know that the people at the top in media knows that the way to control society is through words, and through selective words and the way that they play with words. If you think back to the 60s and you think about the images that come to mind, because really, I would say media started to play a role in society probably at the end of World War II. Well, actually, I would say probably more so in the 60s. We think about the images of policemen and dogs with fire hoses with people. Those images are very vivid. We think back to the Vietnam War protests and the images of the Kent State students who were murdered, and one of the students who were bent over in agony. We think back to when Richard Nixon in the 70s, when he resigned from office. We all have that indelible image of him heading up to the helicopter and heading out. We have had images throughout the 80s of success, what that looks like, from Donald Trump with Trump Tower to Trump Airlines to the excesses that were brought to us by Robert Leach and Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. The 90s, we had so many images of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yes.
I mean, everything I point out, people have that snap image in their mind, whether it's a word, whether it was an article that they saw or a news report about that particular newsworthy item, so to speak. And when you think about it, the fact that you can remember those things just tells you about how influential media is and how they distribute their content and why they choose to distribute their content. They know that if we get a certain segment of population riled up, they know the end results from that, because we've had over 40 years of history of the way media manipulates society. And most of the time, because our attention span is so little these days, because again, with the advent of the digital age, everyone wants gratification now.
Yes.
I mean, gratification without the work to find out exactly what's going on. We want someone to tell us what is going on rather than doing the work ourselves. We leave ourselves completely gullible and susceptible to being swayed by false information or by filtered information. And
why is that? Why is that we want other people to tell us the news and rather just finding out ourselves,
I think it has a lot to do with human nature and comfort. And I think that we as humans, we can become complacent because it's comfortable to be complacent. We'd much rather someone else clean our car or vacuum our floor. I mean, why not? If we can pay someone else to do it.
Yeah, you're so right about that. They got the new little vacuum cleaner where you could just push a button and it could just vacuum your whole room. You ain't got to do nothing. So
exactly,
it's crazy.
exactly. Yes. And so that's why and the thing is that it's all part of psychology. Everyone in media, everyone, not just in media, but our politicians, our corporate leaders, they all have mastered the understanding of mass manipulation. They have. It's why we get excited about certain celebrities. It's why we get excited about wanting to be on TV or in the movies. It's why we get excited about wanting to be in whatever media articles or wanting to be like someone. And it's just part of human nature. We want to aspire to be better. And the people who are at the top, especially in these media companies, most of them did get to the top, but through nefarious ways. I have not yet met someone in a position of power, and especially within a corporate structure, who didn't get there through manipulation tactics and through by just really other nefarious ways. It's just a fact. You just unfortunately don't get to the top without those two things. And it's very dangerous when you are in an industry that can literally influence lives, like the media. I mean, you think about how desensitized we are to violence, so much so that an 18-year-olds can now decide that it's a-okay to kill other people without any sort of remorse, based on the skin color or based on how they're feeling at that particular time. And it's all okay because there are lots of video games out there that are violent that we become desensitized to. We see violence every single day in movies depicted, but now also in the news. The over coverage of the way violence affects us essentially desensitize us in general to these things. And yeah.
You are so right. You're definitely right, though. But the media is a definitely bad influence, though, on some of the youth. With, like you said, with music, yeah, it could be with movies, and a
Mhm.
lot of stuff. So we got to know what to believe in, and not just try to go straight to the news or to the media and stuff like that. You also an award-winning filmmaker, award-winning
Yes.
documentary filmmaker. How did that
Yes.
come about for you?
Well, I fell into media about, gosh, 4 years ago. I uh, really, right after the 2016 elections, I was just, feeling a bit despondent. So did millions of other people. And I decided that I wanted to become, politically active again in some way. I ended up meeting my then film partner, Mike, in front of a rally
Mhm.
at a rally, and connected with other media folks who had worked in the newsroom for various different media outlets, and we all talked about like the way media influences society, like I mentioned earlier. And so I've always been intrigued by a good story, and I one of my favorite documentaries is Street Fight, which chronicles Cory Booker's first run as for mayor of Newark, and also The War Room, which chronicles Bill Clinton's presidential campaign in 1992. Just a peek into what it takes to put together a winning campaign. Both really masterfully told stories through looking at characters. And
Mhm.
so one day a story fell into my lap from a friend, and he was like, "Hey, what do you know about whistleblowers? Do you know what they are?" I was like, "Of course I do." That was like, everyone knows what a whistleblower is. So he
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, I have this woman I want you to meet." And so we ended up meeting her, and she ends up introducing us to some other whistleblowers in her lawyer's office. They basically had blown the lid on corruption within the New York State, like Department of Education and other agencies. And so we thought, wow, this is like really fascinating, their stories. And so we ended up doing a documentary about them, my first documentary. And it's called Whistleblowers. And we ended up getting an award from the National Whistleblower Foundation. It was quite surreal because, wow, it took us 8 months to make that film, and it was a lot of late nights. I can tell you, lots of 3 a.m. nights at the office. It was an amazing experience, and to see our film premiere in DC, our documentary, and we are it truly changed my trajectory, so to speak, on wanting to be in media, but in a much more deeper, impactful way. So since then I have been filming around immigration, an immigration documentary series that will be coming out soon. I'm executive producing a documentary which explores the intersection of being Black and Latina, and called Negrita. And I also have been exploring a documentary around violence and Black and Brown mothers. So, but I also produce a digital show called the Kitchen Table Series, where
Yeah.
we bring together elected officials, candidates running, and people affected directly by the issues. And it was that show that I produced that really helped me to see how media can be used to influence policy in a good way. So we were able to get Elizabeth Warren and Ayanna Pressley to introduce a bill in Congress on police reform. We also were able to get the head of the Oversight Committee, Carolyn Maloney, to call for congressional hearings to examine the way college institutions treat sexual assault victims based on the testimony of three students at Howard who were assaulted. We also were able to bring Representative Madeline Dean on during the pandemic, and she signed on to co-sponsor the Global Health Initiative Fund, which was all part of the pandemic relief package. We also interviewed politicians who are running in New York City for the mayoral office, as well as city council races. And we did have actually one of our candidates that we interviewed who won her city council seat. So that was amazing. We also interviewed the first Black woman to sit on the Portland City Council when she raised a national alarm on the way that the Trump administration had been targeting protesters and illegally extracting protesters from protests in Portland. So she was able to successfully get the Portland City Council to approve an $18 million reduction from the law enforcement budget. So we had, so just the little show that no one knew about had, I was just thinking, wow, we did all of that. We're heading into season 3, and we are planning to tackle things such as affordable housing, education, student loans, domestic violence, and other really timely issues that we need legislative action on.
Okay, that's awesome. That is really, really awesome. You kind of like answered the other question I had about your kitchen series, though. That's awesome, real awesome. But you guys might be having fun with Charlotte here on the 11:30 podcast this week. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, you guys, and when we come back on the other side, we got a hot seat. We're gonna continue chatting it up with my awesome guests. Don't move. You're listening. You're watching to the 11:30 podcast. You did.
With unlimited DVR and personalized recommendations, YouTube TV is live TV reinvented for the 21st century.
I prefer some of the earlier centuries, personally.
He does.
I do.
You can start watching YouTube TV right now without having anything installed in your house.
But having a technician come would motivate me to clean up, so...
You can watch YouTube TV on multiple devices at the same time.
Multiple devices?
But if we watch different shows in different rooms, we drift apart.
I don't want to drift apart from you.
I'm so sorry. Try YouTube TV for free. It's everything live TV should be.
Yo, what up? This your boy Kenneth Stones, aka Coffee Weaston.
This your boy D.O.E. Good Brother Bowl.
And we are the Dirty Hills. You already know, man, you tuning in to 11:30 podcast. Mm-hmm. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Dude, that's my job. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Yeah. And you have been Dirty Hills approved.
Yo, we back here on the 11:30 podcast. Appreciate everyone sticking with me throughout the short commercial break. You guys, I have my awesome guest, Charlotte, businesswoman, social media entrepreneur. You guys, domestic violence survivor, all that, man. Really, really great. We've been having fun chopping it up on the 11:30 podcast. Well, Charlotte, you also mentioned early on, and I mentioned also, you're a domestic violence survivor also.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that is correct. I am. Oh my goodness. Yes, that is such a heavy topic. Yes, I was in a pretty abusive relationship. And I think the issue of domestic violence is very prevalent in society. It's sort of taboo, but not really taboo. And people are talking about it, but they're not really addressing it. Why are there these power struggles in relationships? Why do people feel that they need to resort to physical violence, emotional and mental, abuse? Why do people attract people who are, bullies? Why do people bully? I think this country, well, not just this country, but society in general needs a shift in the paradigm of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, what it means to be in a relationship with each other, and then even in same-sex couples, what that dynamic looks like, what it means to be a relationship there. Um, I think that one of the reasons why I decided to start my body care company was sort of out of necessity, because after I had just escaped really from my situation, two other friends came to me with similar situations. And this is the thing about domestic violence. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate from your socioeconomic status, and doesn't discriminate in your race. But as Black and brown people, we are unfortunately more highly susceptible to that. And, both of my friends are, Black and brown women, and they're highly educated. And yet here they are completely broke, because you have to tap into these financial resources to escape from a domestic violence situation. It's probably the number one reason why people stay in abusive relationships. And particularly, it's really true for women, because oftentimes women are the less earner, I should say, in a relationship, unfortunately. And so a lot of times women choose to stay in unhealthy situations because of economics. And so they find themselves in very precarious situations. And what's crazy is that by the end of today, at least 4 Black women will have been killed due to violence. And actually, I think due to intimate partner violence. It's kind of scary when you think about that. And so I wish I had, and I wish I had a deep pockets that I could write every single one of my friends who came to me, or every single woman who came to me for help, that I could give them a check for $15,000 or $20,000, because oftentimes that is the reality of things. You need that much money to relocate. If you have children, it's even more. And so, especially when you're getting into custody issues and all of that, or even if there aren't any custody issues, but you're taking your children with you, there are extra expenses that come with that. And oftentimes women who are escaping, and particularly Black women, and we often find ourselves having to use the services of a homeless shelter. This is unfortunately very true. And I've met many highly educated Black women who have found themselves in these situations and have had to temporarily access a homeless shelter. And it shouldn't have to be that way at all. So I decided to create Misiones, kind of a Misiones body care, which is a play on, so my mother is of Cuban descent. And so giving that homage to my mother, and my father, he's of African descent. And so we have launched our first collection, which is called Ashe, which in my father's language in Yoruba means thank you. So paying homage to both my parents in that way. And so I literally started it not just to help me, but to help my friends. And so one of my friends in particular, she is also on staff with me here, and she literally 15% of all of our sales are literally going to her to help her legal fight and help her with living expenses from escaping from a really horrendous domestic violence situation. And we are partnering with other organizations that offer emergency services to women, particularly mothers who are escaping from domestic violence, such as emergency housing, burner phones, job placement programs, etc. In particular, our first one that we're launching with is called Hearts Full of Grace in Virginia. And they provide those type of services. And I'm really excited about that we can make a direct impact on at least one mother's life. And to me, that's one life that's saved. And it means that there are children who will no longer have to see their mother being abused in any way, shape, or form. We need to address mental health and why these scenarios keep happening. I know it's easy to villainize the abuser, but we also need to understand why that person, the thought process behind why they think it's okay to either react in a certain way or to talk to people in a certain way too as well. I guess we need to take the stigma out of that and have that conversation too as well, because I think that there will be no progress as a society to address this issue if we don't have an honest conversation with people, who have abused.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right, and I'm so glad and awesome that you got out of that situation, and for all the women out there, I couldn't imagine. I definitely couldn't imagine, but it's awesome that you turned what was going on in your life to a better outcome or situation for yourself with the body care and stuff. So I think that's really, really awesome and very inspirational. What inspires you?
My son, a little man. Yes, he was, he was born early. He was born almost 3 months early. And so he spent some time in the NICU and the intensive care unit, and watching my son fight for his life was, he inspires me. I remember the first time I was able to hold him outside of the incubator, and the first smile that he gave when he saw me, it was everything. And so I am really, truly inspired by him. And as a Black woman raising a Black son, it's important for me to leave a world for him where he can walk down the street and feel okay, feel safe, feel not judged by others, feel that he can get a fair treatment, not based on his skin color, but based on the content of his character, just like Martin told us years ago.
Okay, that's dope. That's real dope and awesome, because my fiance is actually 7 months pregnant, and I'm gonna be a dad in 2 months. So I'm so excited. So once you said your son inspires you, I know that I've been telling people that I'm gonna be a dad since about January, February. So I'm so excited. So it's just so many stories that I think I'm gonna wind up telling on the podcast after I take a short break to be by my fiance's side. But
yes.
I know that's an awesome feeling for you. Really, really awesome.
Yes, thank you so much, and congratulations to you and your lovely fiance.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. But you guys, man, we're gonna keep the fun going on here on the 1130 podcast. Before we wrap it up, you guys, it's time for the 1130 podcast hot seat, you guys. Okay, all right. It's time for the hot seat, Sola. I got 6 questions for you, and we can roll.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. All right. If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
I would change the way Black people and white people interact with each other, hands down.
Okay.
Yes.
Like that answer. I like that one. I like that. I agree. Okay. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Loaded question. Let's see. Because I lived in Mexico, I can't say Mexico. That's a whole podcast within itself. The Black woman's experience in Mexico. I have so many stories to share. Okay. But oh my goodness, I would want to. I saw a place in South Africa that my friend went to, and it looked magical in Cape Town. So that's where I would want to go visit.
Okay, Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. How's Mexico?
Oh my goodness, it is. I actually have fantastic stories about Mexico. I actually owned a bar down there. I believe it or not. Yep, sure did. Oh my gosh. Oh, stories I could tell. Owning the bar next to the police station with the police dealing meth right there. You know what? Because this is in the U.S. I can say it, but if I was in Mexico, of course I would.
Yeah, Mexico has a whole lot of great stories.
Oh my goodness! Yes. Oh, the people are great. People are great, and it's beautiful. I lived down in Los Cabos for many years. Loved it in a small town called Cabo Pomo. It was awesome. It is awesome. Still have a place down there. Fantastic. I would recommend it for anybody. And as a Black person living there, I say yes, Mexico is great because you know what? When I was sitting at a market one day with a friend, these three Mexican ladies came up and were staring at me, and my friend was like, what's up? Why are you looking at her? And they were like, oh, because we haven't seen a Black person, and I said, you know what? Just north of the border, there's millions of me.
Oh man, Mexico is definitely a place I gotta visit. Definitely.
You should.
Who do you look up to? Who do you look up to?
Oh, I look up to my mentor and my mother. My mentor, I consider her my elder, and my mother is my mom. My mother's been through so much. I learned the power of strength from my mother. Just belief in yourself, to persevere, and just learning how to dig deep in a well. I learned from my mother. From my mentor, I learned, like I said, lessons from the civil rights movement, and the ability to organize is what I've learned.
Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool. Any film you'll like to produce in the future?
Yes, there is a film I would love to produce based on a real story of what happened to someone I know who made the front pages of Vanity Fair, a pastor of a mega church who was pastor by day, drug runner for Mexican cartel by night. That is a film. That is a true story. I know the guy. Was shocked when I saw his face on the cover. And because I knew some other details that the journalists don't know, I thought, wow, this would be an amazing feature film. I already have the cast in my brain already.
Okay, that's awesome. That's definitely dope. Okay, what legacy do you want people to remember about you after you're gone?
I want people to know. Someone told me yesterday that nice people can't be leaders. And I want people to know that nice people can be leaders, that you don't have to be a jerk to be a leader. I wanted to use a more colorful term, but
I definitely get what you're saying. Yeah. I get you. Okay. Do you believe in faith, or do you think that things happen because of our decisions?
I believe in faith. And I also believe that things happen because of our decisions too, as well. I believe that there's an intersection, for lack of a better word, between faith and actions. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Look, it's no wrong or right answer in the hot seat. It's all cool. Charlotte, I appreciate you joining me this week here on the 1130 podcast. It was definitely awesome to have you on. Before you go, any questions, any shout outs, anything you'd like to say? Oh goodness, just I just want to give a shout out to my son, Jonah. He has been my Jonah Zion, little Zion. He is my inspiration. And I love learning from him. You know, you can learn so much from your children, from when they're babies to, you know, little kids like he is now. My little inspiration there. I also want to give a shout out to everyone who has been in my corner from day one. Everyone who's really truly been a true supporter. I just want to give a personal shout out to you, and you all know who you are.
Hey, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, having them people in your corner, especially when you're starting out with something. You know, in this December, it'll be 3 years for me being podcasting, and I just thank everyone, you know, who's been by my side, and just, you know, everyone who's been a guest that helped the 1130 podcast elevate to another level. And I thank you so much for real. Awesome coming on the show, just sharing your story and showing your entrepreneurship. So it's definitely dope. You know, you're welcome here anytime, Charlotte. But this was a dope episode. Sit tight, we're going to chat in just a few. But I appreciate everyone joining this week here on the 1130 podcast. This was a dope episode. Before I go, you guys, man, don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. Follow the 1130 podcast on Twitter at the 1130 podcast. Like the 1130 podcast on Facebook. And if you haven't done so, the whole entire episode, subscribe to the 1130 podcast on YouTube. Yes, hit that subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. For real, this was a dope one. An all new episode of the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling, streaming this Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 Central. Let me get it right. 12 Central on YouTube, and the audio version will be available the next day. Me and my guys, the commission, Warren Marlowe and Black Hawk, we went on our break. We'll be back in the summer, a little bit after that. But if you haven't done so, tune into latest episodes on Off the Top Roads podcast, Buzzer and Marlowe, and right here on the 1130 podcast. Man, this was a great one. I'm not going to keep rambling on. But Charlotte, once again, thank you so much for coming here on the 1130 podcast.
Thank
you, guys,
Andre.
Anytime. Thank you, guys. This was a dope one, man. For real. I'm about to head on out of here. Stay safe, stay blessed. Give all the glory to God, man.
Yes.
Yo, won't he do it, man? For real. Yo, it's your man Dre, a.k.a. Dre on Wheels, for my lovely guest, Charlotte. We out.
Thank you. Thank you.